did you serve? And I was like, yeah. He's like, did you go down range? I was like, yeah, both Iraq and Afghanistan. He's like, are you seen for PTSD? No. And he's like, bro, you need to. You brought some shit back with you. You need help.
Yeah.
And he put his hand on my shoulder and he was like, we're going to get you some help, man. We're going to help you out. And he just showed me kindness, you know? And so they took me to an inpatient facility, and that was my rock bottom. All right, that was my rock bottom.
Hey, everybody, I'm here today with Greg Birch, and we are going to be talking about faith, fitness, business, and the adventure that we had together on the Camino over in Spain. Check it out. Hey, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Would you make sure to please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel here, and please share this episode with somebody whose life it will make better. Greg Birch, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Matt. This is going to be awesome. I'm already digging the energy in this room.
This is long time overdue.
This is.
And it's funny because our stories like just connected, man. We're new friends.
Yeah.
We met through Podmatch. Mm-hmm. Did you swipe me or did I swipe you?
I pitched you. It was a mutual probably. I think you probably pitched me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Came on your podcast, shared my business story. We talked sales. We just talked like serve-based selling.
Yes.
And that was awesome. And then a couple days later, you're like, hey, what's this Camino Spain thing you're doing?
Yeah.
So I told you.
He told me about it. And you were like, yeah, if you're interested, you know, I'll send you some details. I was like, you know, go send some details. And after I read the details, I was just like, dude, I had another podcast with somebody that they hiked some mountain in Europe also. They went to Europe and they hiked this mountain, and it reminded me of what you're talking about. And they were talking about the experience of doing it, and now they do it like every year.
Yep.
And they bring a group of people because it's just like, dude, you're disconnected. It's like kind of physical, but it's like not too physical, but it's physical enough to where you're getting a workout. You're, going through the struggle with other people. You're completely disconnected. You're in another country. You're getting immersed in all this country and all this culture. And I was like, that reminded me of that. And I was like, I need to do something like that. I just felt the pull. I felt the draw, right? And so I was like, I reached back out. I was like, dude, let's do this. I'm in.
Yeah, and you signed up.
Yeah.
And then I had to go make sure there was still seat on the plane from Madrid to Santiago. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then, yeah, man. And that was really the first time we met in person. You stepped into Madrid.
Yeah. And got off the plane in Madrid, and there's a group of you guys like, oh, we're all out here waiting. Never see each other in person, only see each other through video chats a handful of times. Talked on the phone a handful of times. And I walk out and for those of you that never, you can probably tell in this chair, maybe not, but I'm 6'7". I'm a massive dude. Like everyone stares at me everywhere I go. So, and I look like just a walking tree. So,
yeah.
I walk out and there's all these people, you guys are like making jokes already. Like, hey, let's go get in trouble because we got a bodyguard with us. Like, let's go do this.
and you're a foot taller than everybody here, probably 1.5 feet, 2 feet taller than a lot in Spain. They're a little bit shorter. So yeah, definitely everybody was
everyone's like looking at me.
Talk about that. Dig into that. Like, we'll dig into your story, but since we're talking about the Camino, you step out through the doors in the airport. Like, who are these guys? We're like, who's this guy? You're kind of the wild card. Yeah. That's what we called you for a while. And what were those thoughts going into your mind? What were you expecting, anticipating coming to Spain?
Yeah.
And then how did that play out?
So I was expecting, I'm good with new people. Having a group of new people I've never met before and going like that didn't bother me. I wasn't even the slightest concerned. My expectations, I didn't set them low, but I was just like, this is going to be a good trip. I'm going to go see another country. I'm going to eat some different food, and I'm going to be immersed in some culture. Like, I've been to Japan before. I've been to Mexico several times. I've been to Europe a couple times. And so, I already had an expectation of what it was going to be like. What actually took place far exceeded my expectations. Yeah. Far exceeded. Yeah. And so when I got off the plane, the first thing on my mind was just like, I did not talk a lot. I was just listening, and I was watching everybody and listening.
Yeah, you were a little quiet at first.
And paying attention to everyone's mannerisms, how they spoke, what they talked about, right? And seeing like where I could find commonality and in order to like kind of insert myself into the group and it'd be normal. So, And that's all I did. I just paid attention, just watched and learned and listened and saw what everyone was talking about.
Yeah. And then take us to the end, right? So we're getting to the end of the trip. We're beating the floods. Like Spain's flooding.
Yeah.
Like we don't know.
Oh, yeah. It was
the
flooding.
hotel
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
That morning, right? It's like, oh no, there might not be a taxi. You might not get to the airport, and planes might not take off. And then we're driving, we're racing around floods and puddles, and cars are literally getting washed off the side of the highway.
Yeah.
And like talk about that experience of from that first step out, 6-7 days later. Like what were the big takeaways? You know, the hidden gems in that experience.
Man, so that morning when we were sitting in the hotel lobby, I was a little sad that we were all going to go to the airport separately because you and I were going on a different airline on a different part of the airport.
Yep.
Everyone else was going to another portion of the airport. It was a different terminal. And so I felt a little sad. Like I was leaving these guys and I was like, this is the last time we're going to see each other. I was like, and I knew in my heart, I was like, we're getting together again. We're doing this again. Like this, the bonds that we made over that 10 days, the 9 days, 10 days, was very powerful, very strong, just spending all that time, you know? And so, it was an emotional event, like in the hotel lobby, as we read you read the last letter, you handed it all out to us, read the last letter, and then we all just started giving each other hugs. Yeah. And it was like, it was such a different experience that point versus when I first came in, right? Yeah. When I was the unknown quantity and I don't know anybody coming in, and it's the first time I'm meeting everybody and their first time they're meeting me. I think even them, some of you guys knew each other, but some knew each other better than others. Like there wasn't like really deep connections between everybody. And when we left, it was like everybody was deep with everybody.
Yeah. Who surprised you the most in that group?
Bob, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about Bob.
Yeah. Bob surprised me the most.
So Bob Younger, he's with Bob Younger Images. He came to photo document everything.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really spent a whole lot of time with Bob. Did a couple shoots, got to know him through business in the community. But what surprised you about Bob?
So when I was watching, sitting and listening and watching him, he was the one that talked the most, right? It was between him and Travis, actually.
Yes.
When I first got there, but Travis got more quiet as the trip went on, and it wasn't like it was just like it was like he would talk whenever he wanted to. But at the beginning, I felt he talked more, but Bob talked the most by far.
Yeah.
And my first assumption was that I was like, man, this guy's kind of a know-it-all. And I was like, that's fine. It doesn't bother me. Like I've dealt with those kind of people before, you know? And as it's like this anticipating like cause I'm always like, I don't want to rock the boat. This is a trip. I don't want to be the guy that's like coming in and then there's problems and I'm at the center of them. Right. And I would always want to be like the guy that's trying to like, this doesn't make any waves. I want everyone to be like, dude, that was great to have that guy around. Right. You know, I don't ever want to cause animosity or angst. And so, that's one of the reasons that I'll come in and just watch to see like, how do I need to react or act on this person to make sure that we can mesh?
Yeah.
And almost be a chameleon in situations. Right. He's not a know-it-all at all. You know, he just wasn't. I think he's just a talkative guy. He likes to talk. He likes to like meet people. He likes to learn about people. He's a phenomenal photographer. Like he is an incredible photographer. He's got a knack and he has an eye for things, right? Yeah. Very talented. And it's not just talent, skill, actually. This is something you can tell that he works really hard at. And by the end, I was like, I really liked him.
Yeah.
Right. By the end, I was like, I really like Bob. He's just a really nice guy that you can joke around with, have a good time with. You guys can tease each other and then go about your business. And then when you see each other, give each other a hug again and go about, and pick up right where you left off.
And we're doing that today. So you're in, I mean, everybody that came on the Camino, they're from here, Northern Colorado. Mm-hmm. You're from Dallas, Dallas area. And you flew back because we're doing a big Spanish dinner party reunion tomorrow night.
Yes, we are.
I know. So man, let's dig in. Like, tell me a little bit about your story. So, you've served our country You've got your online fitness coaching and personal professional coaching business. You're in the insurance world as well. And just kind of give us a little rundown. Like how'd you get into business? Like when did you realize, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to do this.
So as Matt was saying, I spent 11 years as an Army officer. So I knew I wanted to go to the Army as a very young age. And it's funny, I didn't realize how powerful, what's the term I'm looking for? Law of attraction, manifestation, active visualization was, right? Until I became an adult and I looked back and I realized I'd been doing it. I did as a kid. So when I was a young kid, when I was about 8 years old, my dad was a prior service. He served in Vietnam. Both him and my mom, that's how they met. He did his 20 years, retired. He was hired as an E7, which is pretty typical. If he'd have stayed in, he probably would have made E8, but he decided to get out. And I was about 8 years old, and him and I were sitting down, we're not sitting down. We're outside working on our pool. We had an above ground pool. We still like clean it and like get all the leaves out and stuff every summer. And I'd help him. And so he's like, and I always ask him stories about the military. So I was always very intrigued. And he didn't talk much about it, but he would every once in a while if I asked the right questions the right way. And so I always remembered as a young kid him talking in a story about the commander he had when he was downrange in Vietnam. And he talked about this captain, and the way he talked about this captain, he had a level of respect and reverence in how he mentioned and talked about him. And so much so that at a young age, I wanted to be a captain. I didn't know anything else other than I wanted to be a captain, because if my dad respected this guy, then that's what I want to be. I want to be something that my dad would respect. And so I had this vision in my mind that I would play in my mind on repeat for hours. And in the background, my mom had a record player with these two speakers. We had this huge German trunk. She still has it. This huge German trunk that like spans literally the length of this wall. And she got it from Germany when they were stationed there. They had it shipped over in pieces. And she has these two speakers on the top. And so she's always had these huge speakers, just booms music through the house. And so I would play, she had a Queen album. I'd play We Are the Champions.
Oh, yeah.
On repeat. And I keep putting on repeat on this record. And I would walk around while that song's playing. And I had this vision of me in a parade field as a captain at the front of these soldiers getting an award. And the more I did it, the more vivid and detailed this vision in my mind got, to the point where I could like almost feel the breeze on my skin or what it smelled like outside in this parade field. And I did it for years, man. I did it a lot. And so I should not have gotten an ROTC scholarship for full ride. I shouldn't have. I was a 2.5 GPA in high school. I took my ACT the last possible time I could take it before I graduated high school. Like I was required to take it that time or I wasn't going to graduate.
Yep.
And I got the lowest, I got the entry score.
Just for putting your name on it, right?
I got the entry score for what it is that is required to get
where you're going,
to get a scholarship. And my mom was like, well, you get the score to get it. And I was like, okay. And I applied and I got it. Somehow I got it. I was like, it shouldn't have happened. Right. And I ended up serving. I ended up becoming an officer. I ended up becoming a captain. I got awarded. Those things happened. Like I manifested it into my life, which I think is very powerful. And so after I spent about 10 years in, I was at a decision point. I was like, I need to either stay in or get out. At this time I was divorced. I've got 4 kids with my ex-wife and things had changed. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try my hand and see what I can do as a civilian, whether that's Fortune 500 company, owning my own business. I didn't have any specific idea. I wasn't like, I want to be an entrepreneur. No, I just wanted to go. I wanted to go test my limits where there was no government red tape, and I could see like how hard can I flex and like get this stuff done. So I decided to get out. I ended up having to stay an extra year in because I had a shoulder surgery So on my medical exit interviews, they ended up doing a CAT scan, and my right shoulder had a rear labral tear that was really bad. And they're like, you need surgery like yesterday. So this booked me right away. I got surgery, and I had to stay for an extra year just to go through physical therapy, rehab, and all that. Because they don't want to put you out broke, because then they owe more money. So got out. Initially, I worked for Public Storage as a district manager on a track glide path going into the executive level leadership, right? And I hated it. I worked there for about 4 months.
What'd you hate about it?
Dude, it was storage wars every month. So I spent more time doing collections for people that wouldn't pay their storage bill that was like $40 a month, and then have to go cut their locks and inventory the actual storage unit. And then every single month that we did storage wars, we would auction them off.
So you have all the guys come in, I want $200.
Yeah. And we would literally run it like an auction. And so that's what our job was, is that it was a cycle, it was a monthly cycle. As soon as we got done auctioning, we would do all the coordinations for them to come get it out. We would get it back on the market. We get that unit back resold. And then it's literally going right into collections, because it's now the new month. People haven't paid, going right into collections again. And it's just collections, cutting locks for like a week. Cause I'm cutting locks on 7 different properties, and each property has upwards of like 15,000 units. And there's usually about 20% that are
really?
Yeah.
That much?
Yeah. I would spend days in the sun just like cutting locks over and over again. I would get metal shavings into my skin, just like embedded in my skin. Yeah. It was terrible.
So not fun. How long did you do that?
4 months.
4 months.
Yeah.
And then what happened after that?
I quit. And it dawned on me, and I'm like, I don't work for Uncle Sam anymore. I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. And I was like, I'm out. Like, I don't have to do this. So I quit. And yeah, man, I kind of went on a 1 week sabbatical, not doing shit. And finally I was like, you know what? I got to do something. Started looking at Indeed. Found an ad that was sales leading to management, leading to leadership position. And it was like, base is 65, but first year you can make upwards of 6 figures depending upon performance, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I test high in sales, and I've got a lot of leadership experience from the military. This sounds right up my alley.
Yep.
So I went to this group interview. I didn't even know it was a group interview. I sent in my resume. It came back. They were like, hey, we like it. Come in for an interview this day, this time. So I was like, all right, perfect. Went and looked up the company. Doesn't exist. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I show up. It's a fake company. It's actually a life insurance company by a different name. You can't, on Indeed, they don't allow life insurance companies to market because it's 1099 jobs. You have to have some kind of salary job. Got it. So this is a common practice in the insurance industry, by the way. I found out afterwards. And when I first sat down for it, I was like, I don't know if I want to sell life insurance. There is nothing sexy about that. Like, in fact, it's kind of skeevy to me. But the more I sat there, and I was just like, I'm not doing anything else. I was like, worst case scenario, I get my life insurance license. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, I'll go do something else. Not a big deal. But I stayed because everyone that was working there, nice suits, nice watches, nice cars. And I was like, and all of them, to be honest, were like monitor lickers. I was like, you guys, if you guys can do it.
If you can do it.
I know I can do it, right? And so, I got my license in October 2017. I was with a captive company. And that first 2 months, 2.5 months, it's really like 2 months and a couple of days, because I got my license, I think like October 28th, 2017. So literally I'm at the 6-year mark right now. We just passed it. And they had a fourth quarter blitz. It was like for all of the agents in the entire company that have been in the company for at least 2 years, 2 years or less. There was a competition to see what agent could be the highest producer. And I started basically in November, and I beat everybody in the entire company nationwide. And so
just getting into the business,
just
like new to the industry.
New to the industry, never done it before, came in and just started rocking and rolling.
Had you sold at that point? You said you tested high for sales, but you weren't selling at public storage,
I wasn't
right? You were
selling.
cutting locks.
I was cutting locks. Yeah. I had sold a couple of times at public storage, just when people would come in and they would they would be like, hey, we're trying to get this, this whatever storage unit. We go show it to them. This like, they come out. It's like, hey, let's go ahead and let's make sure you get the right lock, because we want to make sure you have a good lock. You don't want to put a crap lock on there because people can do this, that, the other. These are like protected. And I would like help you get a lock, or like packing supplies. Hey, are you all packed up? Do you need boxes, tape, bubble wrap, stuff like that? So I would do stuff like that, but it was just really just by having a conversation and seeing what people needed. It wasn't like I was trying to specifically sell.
So insurance is that's your first good go round. Beat the whole company.
Yeah.
And then were you like hooked at that point? Did you know you wanted to
I was hooked. Yeah. Because of money I made.
Yeah.
So I made really good money the end of that year. And so started the next year, 2018. And I ended up bouncing from company to company. And I became a broker, where I'm independent, worked for multiple companies, and I started working with leads. Whereas before I wasn't. I was working with like free data that the company, the captive company had, that I was calling and basically trying to just convince them to set an appointment with me to give them something free. It was a bait and switch sale. And so once I started working off leads, everything changed. Well, during that time frame, I think. And you can attest to this. I don't know. Let me ask your opinion if this happened to you or you've seen this happen to salespeople. I feel like because I had really, really strong success at the beginning, it actually was more of a detriment to me because I got lazy. I thought I was special, and I started taking my foot off the gas. I stopped following certain fundamentals, thinking like I don't have to do that. I was top sales. I don't have to go to that training. I'm not going to stay on the training. I'm good.
Oh yeah.
Or like, oh, I'm not going to do dials today. I'm good. I can catch up later. And I started making excuses, and my numbers plummeted.
Yeah.
Right.
We had talked about that. Yeah.
And so it's because I thought I was special. Right. And it's because I started off and I took off running and had such success that I thought somehow that I was unique or talented or.
Yeah.
So.
I've been there. Yeah. I remember that like back in the college painting days. Cause I mean, I had the little lawn mowing business and snow shoveling. I'm knocking on neighbors' doors. But like when I was really selling and like beating the street and grinding, knocking doors, marketing, converting, selling, you'd have the big weekend or the big month, and then you kind of forget the basics. You think it's like nope, it's just the basics. You find one or two things or just one thing that you do, and you don't miss any of those details. Yeah. And when we were on the podcast, it was really interesting because I think we both have a really similar perspective on sales. We just talked about serve selling, right? Yeah. So we talk about Bob, like he really wants to run his business full time, and he's nervous about that. I'm like, man, just go out and serve people.
Yeah,
just go out, take a photo of somebody, offer it to them completely free, no strings attached. Go do that enough times, that's gonna turn into something.
Yeah, because then people are gonna be like, you get them a really nice photo, right? And you send it to them, and then they post about it, and they just tag you. Someone's gonna eventually see it, like that's a really good photo. Like it's the best photo you've ever taken, right? And then I'm like, who's that guy? Oh, yeah, it's here. Like, oh, you got his contact information? Well, I got his Instagram handle. Yeah, I do. And then before you know it, he's getting out there. Or like if he has somebody that is a client that ends up getting a big package, actually going in and like buying, and it wouldn't cost that much, but like take one of his pictures and buy like a big canvas and have it shipped to them with like his signature on the bottom.
Yeah.
Or like to the so-and-so family, to the Johnson family, right? Where are they going to do with that? They're going to hang that up on their wall. Every time they walk by, you know what's going to happen? They're going to think of him. And every time someone comes in, they're like, that's a great photo. Where'd you get that from? Oh, my photographer actually gave it to us as a gift.
Just gave this to me.
Just gave it to me. It's one of the photos he took. Like, that's great. Do you have his contact instant conversations?
Yeah.
Right. Like, man, there's so, man. Hey, you want some ideas on what to do with your business to generate sales and leads? Man, I got you, bro.
Well, and I saw Bob and I were just having coffee before we had this coffee. How many have we had today?
This is
four.
This is my fourth.
This is fourth coffee today.
Yeah.
And this is the strong stuff.
I feel great.
The good stuff. I saw his. He shifted though, because the conversation was like, what do I need to do? What's my pitch? Like what's the pitch? I'm like, no pitch. Just go offer something. Just go give. And he's like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Just go contribute. Where do you see salespeople miss it? Because I see that. Like, I know when I'm getting pitched, and I've heard all the pitches.
They care too much about the sale. They get desperate. A lot of people get in sales, and this isn't a bad thing. It's just, I think the reality is no one's like, I want to be a salesman, right? No one says that, right? Everyone wants to be like a fireman, policeman, military, friggin' president, scientist, doctor, dentist. No one's like, I want to grow up and be a salesman.
Yeah.
You know, so what happens is that most people get in sales and it falls in their lap and they need money. They're like they're in a hard time. They have nothing else to do.
Yep.
And there's this company's like, hey, we'll hire you and you can make great money with commissions, but it's eat what you kill. You got to do the work, but what they're like, I'll do anything,
Yep.
you know? And when you're in that frame of mind, you're only thinking about, I have to get this sale because I have to be able to eat.
Yeah.
I have to be able to pay my rent. I have to be able to pay my bills. And that's the first thing in your mind. And I used to do this practice before, when I finally started getting good at sales, and I started to realize what was going on. I would literally sit down in the car when I was sitting outside a client's house, and I would look at they had a lead form, and it would have the amount of the mortgage, the name, their age, and I would just try to imagine what it would be like if that was me and I was that age and something happened to my loved one, and how much, if I had to cover that, what was I going to do? And like put myself in that position and like feel like if they passed away tomorrow and they didn't have any protection, if the husband passed away and the wife didn't have any protection, what is she going to do? Right. And so I try to think about it from their perspective and really like get into that feeling so that when I went there, I was really focused on like taking care of them.
Yeah.
Right. And not just trying to get a sale and not just trying to put any product out there, but really be, you know, not the whole cookie cutter, but a customized plan based on their situation, based on what they could be approved on, based on what their finances were, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I found that when I did that, I had way better just appointments, maybe not always sales, but I had great appointments and great connections with people. Yep. Right. And then that would almost always lead to something, whether it was they would refer me to somebody or they would send somebody my way because they're like, hey, he's like a stand-up dude. He will shoot you straight. And so because I cared more about them than I did about the sale.
Yeah. You don't have the commission goggle. We call it commission goggles.
Yeah.
Commission breath. Yeah. In the real estate world.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I tell all my salespeople, I was actually on stage at the Badass Business Summit in September, at the end of September. And it was actually right when I got back from Camino.
That's right after we got back.
Right, we got back. I went and spoke on stage in Fort Worth, and I was telling everybody while I was on stage, I was like, you know, one of the things I tell my team, and this is something I've learned going in sales when I first came in, and it's something that I've held with me. But there's a saying, and it's hard to be nervous when your heart's on service.
Yeah.
And I always tell that to my agents that are like nervous to get on the phones. And I'm like, why? Why are you nervous to get on the phone? What's the worst that can happen? They hang up. Okay. Then what? Did it do anything against you? No. Like, I'm like, well, what do I say? How about you ask them questions to see how you can help and have a human conversation?
Pretty simple.
Yeah. It's that simple. Like, hey, I'm calling you because of this reason. And I'm just going to ask some questions to see if there's any way that I can help you out with the products that I have. If it doesn't work out, just let me know. But if it does, hey, I'd love to be your advisor and see if we can get you approved something. Is that fair?
Yep.
Done. Bada bing, bada boom. Like, that's it. Done. And they're like, that's simple? Yeah, that's simple.
Yeah. You see people overcomplicate it too much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Man, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
It's a total change of topic. So when we first met, came on your podcast, I knew you were coming on the Camino with us. So I'm following your content and I'm watching your content. You've got, you know, the workout and the coaching and the mindset and everything. And then you put one video out there, and I don't know if you remember this, but you were like, hey, you know, I can't remember the date exactly, but you're like, man, I was down, I was out, I was drinking, I was depressed, took a gun. I can't remember where you put the gun. If it was,
up to my head.
It was up to your head.
Yeah.
And you thought about pulling the trigger.
Yeah, man.
And talk about that, because that was the moment I'm like, this guy, I want to get to know more of his story.
Yeah.
So share that if you will.
I will.
Because that that was heavy and deep. And I was like, holy crap.
Yeah. I used to be very ashamed of that, man. For a long time. That happened in 2018. Happened in May of 2018. So after my divorce, after I got divorced from my wife, her and I, we knew each other in high school. We started dating in college.
Hey, just want to give a big shout out to one of our sponsors, Imprint Digital. If you're a small business owner, one of the things that you need to navigate to be successful is all things online and digital in terms of marketing and your messaging. Imprint Digital, they're the real deal. They are the professionals and they know this world inside and out. Make sure to visit their website at imprint-digital.com. Hey, if you're a business owner and you need to do some renovation in your space or possibly build a building from the ground up, you have to connect with one of our sponsors, Mendel Construction. Mendel Construction is a commercial construction company that's been around since 1997, serving all of Colorado. They can do a small tenant finish all the way up to ground up construction of a new building for your business. Check them out at mendelandcompany.com. That's MENDEL and company.com. If you're a Christian small business owner and you live in Northern Colorado, you have to check out one of our sponsors, the Foundry Advisory. The Foundry is a Christian executive peer advising group that connects other business owners in the community to help you focus on your faith, your life, your leadership, and your business. Make sure to check them out at thefoundryadvisory.com.
We ended up getting married. And by the time I get divorced, I'm in my 30s. I hadn't dated or even been like that since I was in college, and I was shy and timid and lack confidence, and I was a completely different person. By the time I'm getting divorced, I'm like this size, and I'm a completely different person. Like I've come out of my shell. And so I was just like, dude, I went nuts, bro. I was, and now there's two sides of this. One is that I was unhappy because it stung. She cheated on me when I was in Iraq, and I knew about it, and I held on to it for a long time. And something happened that made me snap, and I ended up cheating on her because I got mad.
Yeah.
And so I dealt with it. I lived with it for like 6-7 months, and then I told her about it, and we discussed it. We ended up trying to go through therapy. It just didn't work, and the trust was gone. So I actually decided that we should get a divorce. She left. She went back home. So I was in Arizona. She went back home where we're from in Tennessee, and took the kids with her, and filed for divorce out of Tennessee. And so now I'm alone. And the first time in my adult life, I'm alone, right? And so no kids, no dogs, no cats. Like we had 3 dogs, 2 cats, 4 kids.
You got real quiet, real fast.
That was the most depressing day I can remember in my life. Was one day all the kids are there, and the next day literally they packed up and left. Next day I come home from work, and I'm so used to coming home from work and it being like, daddy, daddy, daddy. You know, it's like being in a superhero movie and like everyone's like screaming your name. You're like, yeah me. Like, because they're all these little human beings that are like just chanting your name. And I come home and it's dead silent, not a pin drop. And I remember my heart sinking and just being like, this is the most depressing thing in the world. To go from like a full house of love and laughter and noise and just chaos, but I liked it. It was like controlled chaos, to nothing. And I didn't like being alone. I had to fill that void. And so I was like, well, you know what? I have different body, different personality. And I went nuts.
Yeah.
And I was seeking for companionship and love externally. I was seeking for people to make me feel wanted and adored. And it was just scratching a surface, right? It wasn't real because those feelings come from within. They do not come from externally. And so I would start these relationships that almost always inevitably ended in dumpster fires because they weren't meant to be. I was jumping in too quickly. Like I would meet a woman at a bar, start talking. We go home and it's just like, you, me, we're doing this. And then we'd be together for like 8 months. And then we would break up, and literally the next day, within 24 hours, I'm at the bar and I'm picking up another girl, and I'm like, you, me, let's go. It was like, dude, I had people moving into my house that were like within 2 weeks, you know?
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And so I met a girl. I was dating this one girl. I was dating this woman who was also in the military. She was the first person I dated, basically, coming out of my marriage. And her and I broke up because I was getting out of the military. And she was going to get out of the military with me, but then she didn't. So it was kind of amicable. But literally the day we broke up, we're like, just like, hey, this isn't going to work out. I went to the bar with my buddies, and we went to the bar because they wanted to celebrate that I got my final out date, which was 2 weeks. I was like, I had 2 weeks left in Arizona before I go to Dallas to go work at public storage. And so I was like, let's go to the bar. Now, Sierra Vista, Arizona is middle of nowhere. It's literally the middle of nowhere. It's like the town is like a triangle, and there's one main bar slash dance club. That's it. There's like a Buffalo Wild Wings, and there's like an Applebee's, like that, but just like one bar.
And then the bar.
That's it. And so we used to go there and play. We used to go there and drink and play darts. I love playing darts. So we went there, and I saw this girl, and I was like, dude, she's hot. I've never seen her before. Small town. Like, you see everybody. You knew everybody. I saw this girl. She's hot. So I just started talking to her, and we just chatted all night, and we talked all night. We ended up dancing all night, and my buddies left me. They just ditched me because I rode with them. And I was like, man, I can't believe my buddies left me. And she was like, do you need a ride? I was like, I do. But it's a small town. I was like, my house is right down the road. I live right by the golf course. And she was like, are you married? I was like, no. And I was like, you can come in my house. I can show you. It's definitely a bachelor pad. So her and I ended up getting together, and we spent the last 2 weeks. I was in Arizona there. And then I left Arizona, came to Dallas. We kept talking. And I was just like, yeah, I kind of like you. I miss talking to you. And she was like, I miss talking to you too. And she was like, there's nothing really holding me here. There's no reason I got to stay here. Right. She was a waitress at Texas Roadhouse. You know, like, there's nothing big here. So I was like, all right, well, you want to come to Texas? And she was like, yeah. So she had a daughter. She picked up her daughter. She packed her stuff, got a U-Haul, and she moved. And she came to Dallas, and she moved in with me. We had known each other for 2 weeks. And man, as soon as she moved in, my stomach just dropped. I was like, dude, it moved way too fast. Because now I'm like responsible for this child.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes. And her child did not have a baby daddy. Like, the guy that was the baby daddy denied that it was his. Never met with her, never saw her, did not pay child support, nothing. And so I now became this kid's dad. And I'm like, oh man. And I didn't really, and I felt trapped, you know. The girl that I was with prior to, that was in the military, I was still hung up on her. Like, I really liked her. I wanted to be with her, but it just didn't work out because she was in the military. And I think this caused fights. You know, that's my opinion, is that I think she kind of felt that things were off, and that I felt this way, caused fights, and the fights just built over time. And so as they built, her reactions were getting more intense. And she eventually got to the point where she'd just be like I could look at her wrong, and, you know, be like, she'd get mad. She'd be like, fuck you, I'm out. Fuck, like, fucking done with you. It was be like, what? So at this time, I'm starting to fall into depression because I'm trapped, but I don't want to be alone. So I'm literally in my mind, I'm like in this between a rock and a hard space, right? Like, I don't want to be this woman, but I don't want to be alone. And I'm in a new state. And like, I just got out of the military, and there's all this change, and I'm freaking the hell out. I'm still missing my kids. I don't know what to do. And so I just like kind of sucked up and didn't do anything about it. And every single time that we get in a fight and she turned to that, it would make me feel even more unloved, even more alone, even more just like she just didn't give a shit about me. And like, nobody did.
A big shout out and thank you to one of our sponsors, M&D Painting and Roofing. M&D was actually founded by my wife Emily and I back in 2005. And for the last 2 decades, we've been here in northern Colorado of one of the leaders in residential and commercial repainting, as well as most recently installing residential roofs. So if you need to paint, re-roof, you got hit by a hailstorm, we can take care of whatever your home needs from top to bottom. You can find us on the web at mandepainting.com. If your life or business are cluttered up with junk right now, then you've got to reach out to one of our sponsors, Hulk Addicts Hauling. Hulk Addicts can come out to your home or business to do anything from removing junk to appliances. Maybe you're demoing or doing construction on a property and you need it cleared out. Maybe you need a big dumpster dropped off that they can roll off later. Make sure to check them out at hulkaddictsjunk.com. They are serving all of northern Colorado as well as up and down the Front Range.
And I was like, well, and I look over and there's a bottle of Jack, big old friggin' handle, like one of those like gallon sized jugs of Jack. And I was like,
big Jack.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, let's go. So I just started pouring Jack and I was just sipping it all day. Dude, I drank half of that bottle between like 10:30 and 5 p.m. Just constantly drinking. And as I'm drinking, I'm like going nuts in my mind because I'm like, is she leaving? Is she packing a bag right now? I don't know. Does she even want to be with me? Why does she always do this? Like, I'm not going to be able to be with anybody. Like, nobody wants to be with me. My fucking wife cheated on me. She didn't stay. This other girl didn't stay. This girl fucking hates me and she's fucking yelling at me all the time. Like, I don't even want to be here. And I'm just going mad. This is madness in my mind, right? I'm calling my friends and I'm trying to talk about it. I was like, I don't know what to do. And these thoughts are like gravity, right? Like this, it's like this initial seed that sprouts and negativity takes hold of it, and it's like chain lightning. The way it happens so quick, where it starts off with like, man, I feel like I'm kind of fucked right now. Like I'm in a shitty situation. It's just like, I'm always in a shitty situation. It's like, why am I in this shitty situation? Because no one fucking likes me. No one likes me because I don't want to fucking be around these people. I don't want to be around at all. How do I fucking not wake up? All right. And you just kind of fall into these thoughts like gravity. And, I was stewing on these thoughts. These hours seemed like forever. Like I couldn't even turn on the TV because I didn't even, nothing was appealing. It was just stuck in my head. And maybe about 3 o'clock or so, I ended up sending a message. I started typing out a message. I have an iPhone, so I'm an iMessage. This is when iMessage first came out, right? It was around this time. It was like, I think a couple years before this, but, I'm typing out this message to my mom, who's also got an iPhone, and I'm trying to type out like it was basically a suicide note. It's basically like, hey, I'm sorry for whatever you see, and just know that I love you. This is not on you. I couldn't handle this anymore. I can't handle being alone. I fucking hate my life. I don't like being in the military. I'm miserable. And I didn't send it, and something happened, sidetracked me. I got a call from my buddy. He called me back. I took it. The message is still sitting in there typed, right? And so him and I talked for a little bit, and I realized like, I got to get ready. It's 5 o'clock. I got an appointment at 6. I'm still working in insurance. I had a client appointment at 6 o'clock. I got to go be at home. It's a 15-minute drive from me. So I'm like, well, I need to go get dressed because I've been in these clothes since this morning. I need to go put on something appropriate for business and go drive to this client's house. So I stumble upstairs and I go and I get her to open the door, and she finally comes and opens the door. And I'm like, hey, I'm just changing clothes. You know, I gotta go to this appointment. And she was like, where are you going? Oh, I got a client appointment at 6. And she was like, you can't drive. You're wasted. And I was like, I'm not wasted. I'm fine. I'll be all right. And she was like, no, I'll drive. Right. And I was like, no, you don't love me. You don't love me. No, you're not driving. You know, I'm just getting obstinate. And she's like, calm down. She comes to walk over to console me. She's like, calm down. It's okay. And this was just one of those times where I'd had it. I was done. And I was like, no. You, like this, you can't keep doing this. It's not okay that every single time that we get into even the smallest of spats like that way you reacted in the car because I said, I don't think we should sue this doctor, to now you fucking hate me and you're leaving me and I'm a piece of shit and all this. Like, that's not okay. And this is what it's doing to me. Like, that's why I don't want to be around you, because every time I get close to you, like, it's like you pull me in and then you throw me away. And then you pull me in and you throw me away. And it makes me feel like shit. And it makes me feel like I don't want to fucking be here. Like, and she was like, well, what do you mean? Like she was like, does it leave? And I was like, no, I don't want to be alive. And I pulled up my phone and I went to my mom's messages and the message was still typed in there. And I was like, I started sending this to my mom. And she read it. And I shit you not, bro. She looks out, she reads it. And as she looks up, she's like, just like that. She's just like, and I'm trying to explain to her still. I'm still like going on and I'm like, this is how I feel. Do you see this? Blah, blah. And she was like, why don't you go fucking slit your wrist then? And my world shattered, bro. That to me, in that moment in time, was the sign. It was the sign that was like, that's the universe telling me I'm not meant to be here. This is it. Dude, it rocked me so hard. I was like, wow. And I didn't say anything. I just stopped talking. I looked at her and I was like, well, I know what to do. And I turned around slowly and I walked to my closet and I opened it up and I grabbed the pistol case that's locked and I put it on the bed. And as I put it on the bed, she sees what I'm doing. And she's like, why is he grabbing his pistol case? What are you doing? And I'm ignoring her and I'm slowly pulling out my keys and I'm going through them and I pull the key. And as I'm doing this, she's like, fucking stop it. And I'm ignoring her and I'm opening up the case and I open it up and she's like, I'm calling the cops. I grab out the pistol and I lock it. And it has, I had one of the wire locks through it. So I unlock that. I pull it out. I load it. By the time I load it, she's already called 911 and she's raced out the door. And I sat down on my bed, on the edge of my bed right there, and I had it on my lap. And I thought to myself, this bitch wants me to kill myself? She's at least going to watch. She's at least going to watch. And now I started getting angry. And so I went out, I walked out, and I could hear her in the playroom. She had the 911 on speaker. She was screaming.
Daughter's there.
Her daughter's there in the room with her. And I literally just put my hand on the door. And I tried to open the door and it was locked. I just put my hand on the door and shoved it real hard. And it like flung open. And she's screaming. It was like 5 seconds where I just and I was like, is this what you fucking wanted? And I'm like, ah. And she's screaming. She's like, he's got a gun. And 911 officer's like, hold on, we're on their way. And her daughter's looking at me just wide-eyed terror, screaming. And I looked down at her daughter and there was something about the way she was looking at me that I was like, man, she's fucking frightened. She's like screaming, daddy. And I'm like, shit, I'm like not trying to hurt her or them. I want to hurt myself, you know? And it stopped me in my tracks. And so I just shut the door and I walked downstairs and I went outside and I sat in my chair and I had my pistol on my lap and I called my buddy and I put him on speaker and I was like, this is it, bro. I can't do this anymore. I told him what happened. I was like, I love you, bro. You know, him and I went to Afghanistan together. And I was like, I love you, man, but I can't do this. And he's like, dude, you're not doing this. You're not doing this. And I was like, dude, my life's over. He's like, your life's not over. I was like, dude, there's literal cops on their way right now. And he was like, it's not going to be that bad. I was like, bro, I could hear the sirens. And it was like cop car, cop car, cop car, cop car. Like 10 cop cars showed up at my house, bro. SWAT teams, all kinds of crazy shit, bro. Because they never, like, it was a small town. And they got on the loudspeaker on a bullhorn, start calling me out, call my name, told me to come out, my hands up. And I was like, do you hear that? I'm literally on the other side of the house, outside in the backyard, and they're on the front yard, on the front side. I was like, dude, you hear that? I was like, and he was like, Greg, did you hurt anybody? No. Did you fire the weapon? No. Have you hurt yourself? No. So you haven't done anything. He was like, dude, go inside, go put the weapon down, unload it, go talk to the police. Your life's not over. And he talked me out of doing something that obviously I would absolutely regretted, and honestly, I didn't have the courage, because if I was looking for ways to get out of it, like by calling my friends, like looking back, I was trying to get, like I knew that I didn't want to do it, but at the same time, like I was like struggling with this feeling. And so, I went inside. The cops called me while I was inside, and they're like, hey, where's the weapon? I told them. They said, leave it on the couch, unload it, come outside, come talk to us. And man, when I opened that front door to the house and that first step outside, every emotion hit me. I mean, I started crying like a bitch, bro. Yeah. I was just like just sobbing. I couldn't even see straight. It was like I just went into a gas chamber, like the CS gas chamber. Just snot coming out of my nose, just water. I'm sobbing, and the guy looks at me, and I walk up, and I can barely even see. And he looks at me, and he looks in, the front door, and he could see the far wall from his angle. And on the wall is my guidon from when I was in company command. And he sees the guidon, and he looks at me, he was like, did you serve? And I was like, yeah. He's like, did you go down range? I was like, yeah, both Iraq and Afghanistan. He's like, are you seen for PTSD? No. And he's like, bro, you need to. You brought some shit back with you. You need help. Yeah. And he put his hand on my shoulder, and he was like, we're going to get you some help, man. We're going to help you out. And he just showed me kindness, And so they took me to an inpatient facility, and that was my rock bottom. All right. That was my rock bottom. I went to an inpatient facility where I sat in a waiting room for nearly 48 hours. Never even got checked in. Never got seen. My sister ended up driving from Tennessee to Texas to come take custody of me and take me to the VA so I could get treatment from the VA. And that's how I got started against treatment through the VA. That's how I started on medication, started taking antidepressants. And I sat there in a waiting room and ate bologna sandwiches for 48 hours waiting as I was coming off of, I was also like still intoxicated, becoming sober, sleeping on a shitty couch with other crazy people that were like legitimately had to be there. and I was there maybe 3 or 4 hours, and I got a call, and they came in, we're in this little room. Then like next door to us was like the staff area, and they had a phone, and we could ask for the phone anytime. We'd call people. But they came in and they said, hey, we're looking for Greg Birch. And I was like, oh, it's me. Like, hey, you got a call. So go and answer it. I just got there, just got in processed. And I was like sitting I was maybe there 2-3 hours, something like that. It's my ex-wife. And she is like, hey. I was like, oh, hey. She's like, how you doing? I've had better days. She's like, yeah, I heard. My girlfriend had told her everything. Called her already. And she told me, she's like, hey, I already know what's going on, blah, blah. Now, this was May. My kids were supposed to come and visit for the summer, because I get summer visitation for the whole summer, in the next month in June, throughout the whole summer. And she was like, hey, I just wanted to call and tell you that I just put in an emergency custody order. I've taken your custody. They're not coming for the summer, and I'm taking you back to court, and I'm taking all your custody. I just wanted you to know that. Well, fuck me. Thanks. Thanks for calling me now, of all times, and letting me know that. And that was what's like, dude, like, kick me while I'm down. I like it. Thank you.
So hung over on Jack, eating bologna sandwiches, locked up 48 hours, sleeping on a couch. Then you get that call.
I get that call. And I started a custody battle with my ex-wife. That spanned 4 years. That spanned 4 years until the end of 2021, beginning of 2022.
So many questions. Like, I just feel like a lot of the men that I meet with.
Yeah.
I mean, because we just spent, we spent a whole lot of time together.
Yeah,
a bunch of great guys. You know, we're sharing our stories and talking about our wins and our struggles and all the things. But I just feel like there's a lot of guys, and I've never served, so I don't know what it's like at all to be in the military. But I know there's a lot of PTSD and a lot of just stuff going on. But I think just men in general, you know, they feel stuck, and I think they think about that. They think about taking their life. You know, if somebody's listening to this, like, what, looking back now, because you're obviously in a way better place.
Yeah,
you totally turned your life around. You know, what would you say to those guys?
Oh,
like,
man.
what was it that, you know, I just heard you say, like, that officer showed me kindness.
Yeah.
In a moment when just a total,
it was a very dark
world
moment.
is melting down.
Yeah. It was like I felt like my life was on fire.
Yes.
And he was like, "Hey, here's a cup of ice water." And I was like, "Fuck, you're a stranger. You don't even know me." Did you realize it then? Was it in that moment when you're like, "Whoa, he's showing me kindness," or was it more looking back? Like, do you tell somebody to look for that kindness, look for that water in the fire, or did you know? Like, did you know it at the moment? I knew at the moment. I knew that I felt very, like, just the way he spoke to me, and the way he grabbed me on the shoulder and just kind of looked me at the eye, and he was talking to me, and he was like trying to connect with me. Right, I could tell that he really cared.
Yeah.
Right. He wasn't just trying to be like, he wasn't like looking at me and like, "Oh, here's this big dumb oaf that has this gun and he's like scaring the shit out of this young woman and her child. And like, he's a fucking criminal, lock cuffs on him. He's drunk and inebriated. Get him the fuck out of here." Mm-hmm. Right. He just took the time to be observant, to see and be like, "Oh, dude, like, he fucking needs some help." Right. And I noticed it then, right? And I don't think I realized the impact of how long I would be thinking about this and how much of an impact he made, but I did realize it then and took a mental note. I was like, I was very kind to that man. And I think it's just being intentional with gratitude, right? And the more, as I started working myself and started in personal development, one of the things that I do is I'm intentionally grateful about things. I think gratitude is a deliberate action.
Yes.
A lot of times people will be like, "Oh yeah, I'm grateful." Okay, well, when's the last time you've actually written down or said out loud the things that you're grateful for? You know, they're like, "Oh, I'm grateful for everything." Well, what about the small things? Like, I'm grateful I got to have this fourth cup of coffee with you, Matt. I'm grateful to be here in this podcast studio with you, Matt, and be able to look you eye to eye and finally have this recording with you. Yeah. I'm grateful for the lunch we had and that all the guys that came were able to be there and just be able to joke and share stories and laugh. And I'm grateful that I'm going to be able to see everybody tonight. Right. And so it's like actually being intentional, because here's the thing, it's really hard to be negative and be unhappy when you're talking about things you're grateful for. Right.
I'm not a scientist. I heard a quote that gratitude and anxiety come from the same place in the brain. Mm-hmm. And if you fill it with gratitude, it eliminates anxiety.
Knowing what I know now, and I'm also not just spitting out my ass a little bit. I mean, it could be, you could think that, but my mom's a psychologist too. So I talked to my mom about this heavily during this time frame, and I did a lot of research. Here's my opinion. I think 99% of anxiety and depression is self-caused. I think it's because people don't have control in their life. They don't have control in different areas of their life. And that lack of control causes a void or a hole within their own life and their spirit, and it causes them to act outside of who they are as a person, of spiritually who they're aligned with, what they should be aligned with, right? And so I had been acting spiritually out of line for many years, and it was slowly eating at my soul.
Yeah.
And it started back when I cheated on my wife. And I never took accountability for that. I blamed her. I pointed the finger and said, she did it first. She deserved it. No. Right. Even with this girl, she looked me in my eye, told me to go slit my wrists. That doesn't give me the right to then pull my gun out, scare the shit out of her and her daughter. Right. if I look at just that action by itself, it's fucking crazy. Right?
Yeah.
Now, when I tell a story, you're like, dude, that makes total sense. But if you look at it outside, not being influenced by any other action, it's either fucking crazy or it's wrong, or it's both, right? And so when I started to look at actions in that way, when I started to take accountability, I started to realize, like, man, there's all these instances in my life that I have done things. And here's the thing, we all do this, right? You know, you'll be in traffic, someone cuts you off, you get mad, you start riding their ass and honking the horn, or you pull around them and you flip them off, right? And you're like, well, he cut me off first. What if that person was in an emergency? What if they have a sick kid at home? What if their wife's at the hospital? What if they just got a call from their boss? They have to get there within the next 5 minutes or they're fired. Like, you don't know, right? I doubt that anything that anyone did in the external world was literally to look at you like, I want to fuck that person over, so I'm going to cut him off and ruin his day. That's not the case. But so often we're all internally fixated, but we feel like the external world should impact our actions, right? Instead, it's the opposite way. We have full control of all of our internal actions, and those actually influence the external world. The more we can control our internal actions, what we say, what we think, what we do, and how we feel. Those are the 4 things we can control, and that's it. We can't control somebody else. We can't control other people's actions, what they say. We can't do that, right? We can influence by being positive, right? We can influence the people around us, but we can't control. And when I let go of trying to control other people and I started looking at my own actions, what I realized was that I had been a piece of shit. But when I acknowledged I'd been a piece of shit and I forgave myself, then I let go of that behavior, because now I'm looking at my behavior in a completely different way. And I realized I had not been in line with this person I know myself to be in my heart. And that was essentially, I was lying to myself. Subconsciously, I knew, but that was creating this odds. I was at odds with myself because I'm doing these things. I'm sleeping with all these women. I'm, doing this crazy shit with these exes. I'm going from relationship to relationship to relationship. And I'm treating these people like crap because I care only about me feeling good, right? And then I'm like, well, they're crazy because they did this, that, the other. Were they crazy? Yes. Did they do crazy stuff? Yes. It doesn't mean that it's okay for me to do the things that I did. And so when I removed those things, it was like my anxiety and depression was done. It was gone. Yeah. I came off my medication. I stopped having to go to therapy because discipline actually gave me freedom. And it was the discipline to actually control my schedule, to control my actions on a daily basis, that gave me the thought process and the mental strength and fortitude that I could come up with these things, that I started to become more spiritually in line with the person I was, because I started taking accountability for myself. It started with actions, just daily actions. And that accountability spread out to my entire life, to other things. And it changed everything. Yeah. And so... And it made me realize, like, and this is something that I've talked about at length with my mom, that 99% of people's depression and anxiety is self-caused. We can fix it ourselves. And that's the point. But our brains are wired to keep us where we're at because it's comfortable. Even if you're miserable, you're still surviving, right? So I could say, hey, here's the pathway. You're miserable right now? Yes. Okay. You're unhappy with your body weight, with your business, with your relationships, with, I could go with your how you are with your kids, whatever. We could go any number of things. But if you're unhappy, yes. Okay. Well, this is what you have to do to change. And it's all new things you've never done before. Well, now your brain's like, well, does this even work? Well, what if I try it and it doesn't work? And it's like more pain to even try something new and do the change and to see if it's going to work. And so you feel more comfortable where you're at, even though you're not exactly happy. Guess what?
But you know what you're going to get.
You know what you're going to get.
Yep.
You know you're surviving it, right? And I was the same way. right? I was the same way. I knew I was going to get staying with that woman. The first time that she was like, fuck you, I'm out. Guess what? I should have been like, hey, look, that's not appropriate. I don't want to deal with that. So I'm out. Like we should break up because that's not how I would treat you. And that's how I want to be treated. So, hey, you're right. We should split ways. Right. And I should have just done it amicably then. But I wanted to be with somebody. I didn't want to be alone. I was so used to that already, even though it's miserable. It just needed a couple more things to push me over the edge to make me really fall to rock bottom where I was like, hey, I can't be here. Mm-hmm. I hate this area. Like I'm going to do anything to get out of this spot. And like I was saying with Bob, like we were just having a conversation with Bob about his business. And like, dude, he has everything he needs.
Bob, you've got this, bro. Bob, you got this.
Dude,
maybe by the time this airs, he's already.
You got everything you need. You could literally quit tomorrow and you could start your business and you would be fine because of all the extra time that you'd have. And also just jumping off that cliff as an entrepreneur, what happens is that your brain works differently and you're like, you're going to find ways to make it work, right? It's just, you're going to be way more creative. You're going to be way more control of your time. But it's, even though he's not comfortable right here, in terms of like, he doesn't love it. He wants to do it. He desires a different, but that change, man, that change is scary.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what people do. They get just enough anxiety and depression to where it sucks. They don't like it, but they learn to cope and survive. Mm-hmm. And they cope and survive by falling into vices. Usually it could be food. It could be, social media, it could be pornography, alcohol, drugs, Netflix, sports, whatever it is. Right? You just consume yourself with something that does not move the needle forward in your life. Right? Overconsumption. Anytime you're doing something, like it's not bad to watch Netflix, but if you are over consuming so much that you're like watching an entire season in a day, you weren't put on this fucking planet. You weren't given a gift from God to have life, to sit on the couch, dig your hand in a Cheetos bag, get Cheetos dust all over your fat self, and watch Netflix all day and do nothing. Like this is a gift. And that's the way I see that, is just like, dude, like that's like me giving you a gift and you being like, and just throwing the trash right in front of me. Yeah. Like, oh, thanks. And that's what we're doing to God every day, that we don't live to our greatest potential, that we don't push ourselves to be the best possible person we can be, because we are made in his image and we are powerful. And we do have, all of us, every single one of us, have greatness and unlimited and unknown potential within us. Because every single time we push ourselves, it pushes that potential further and further and further. And we stretch our capabilities. And the more you do it, it becomes addicting, because then you start to be like, well, how far can I go? Yep. Where can I take this? Right? And that's what happened with me. Is just by me controlling my schedule, getting my life back in order, removing alcohol, removing vices, becoming accountable, I transformed my life. And that's how I got into coaching.
I was just going to ask you, like, it sounds all good on paper, right? So somebody's listening to this. Cool. Sounds good. You did it. Good for you. But it's hard. Like how long does that take? How long did that take you to get into that pattern? I mean, where was that
Here's
accountability?
The thing. I'm
like, does somebody have to hit rock bottom to get there?
You feel that's a good question. That's a good question. I think everyone's rock bottom is perceived, right? So like my rock bottom may not have been as bad as, say, let's use Eric Thomas, who was living on the streets. Yeah. Before he's one of the number one speakers in the world, right? He was literally living on the streets, eating out of dumpsters, taught himself, put himself through school, became a motivational speaker, right? The hip hop preacher. Yeah. My rock bottom probably wasn't as bad as his, right? But my rock bottom may have been worse than somebody else. It's just whatever your perceived rock bottom is, where you're just like, I don't want to be at this part of my life. I'm not okay with this. I'm going to do everything I can. We're more willing to move from pain than to move towards pleasure. So the way I tell people, like when I'm keeping my clients accountable, is we try to set up systems where if they don't hit something, that it's going to be painful for them.
Mm-hmm. But you think just everybody's got to have their own level of I'm fed up. I don't want this anymore. Whatever that is for them.
I think majority of people, yeah. That's what forces change. It's almost like a lever within the mind that like just clicks. It's just like, all right, I got to change, right? I think it happens. You'll see like a lot of profound change within people when they get there. Now, that doesn't mean that if you haven't hit rock bottom that you can't change. You may listen to this and be like, dude, I find you to be a more intelligent person and somebody a little bit more keenly aware of yourself. If you listen to this and say, you know what, I want to make a change. I don't want to get to that point. I'd rather follow and listen to this person's example, not get down to that point and just start making a change now because I don't like completely where I'm at and I know I can get better. You're more intelligent than I am. And I hope that's the case for you.
Dude, I love it, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure.
Dude, we're going to wrap it up and we got to do another episode when you're back in town because we're going to have more Spanish dinner.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm sure we will.
So we close out the podcast same way with every guest. You came into the office. We grabbed lots of coffee. You grabbed your favorite color. Yeah. You've got a statement that you want to leave with the world when you leave it. What did you write down?
I said, leadership is not about title or designation. It's about impact, influence, and inspiration. Impact for results, influence to spread your passion and inspire greatness in teammates and your customers. Always be the difference.
Love it. That's a wrap. Thanks, man.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, if you're a faith-based father and you have a son who is entering into adolescence and manhood, you've got to check out an experience that we have June 2024. It is the father-son hike of a lifetime on the Camino de Santiago in Spain. I'm going to be taking a group of men and their sons over to Spain to hike some of the most beautiful scenery through northern Spain on the Camino de Santiago. We're going to hike 6 days, 70 miles, 200,000 steps, and have completely disconnected, unplugged, uninterrupted time with our sons. We are going to grow and bond and deepen our relationships with our sons through some very intentionally curated adventures, challenges, and experiences. And we're going to do so in the company of other faith-based men who have the same desire to grow and deepen their story with their son. If you're interested in this adventure with us, go to mattshoup.com. Click the Go to Spain button and check out the father-son hike of a lifetime.